Well, hi everybody. How we doing today? So, it comes down to this, okay? So, stuff I've been piecing together for a minute now. So, as in the Bible says, as in the days of Noah, people will be eating and drinking and marrying and giving whatever, right? So, the Super Bowl's coming up this weekend. And what are people doing right now? Or at that time, they'll be eating and drinking just like it's a normal day, right? So, there's that. The other part of it is too, I've said before, the days will be shortened. Um, and there's layers to the onion, right? So not only will the days be shortened to prevent the catastrophe that was, we're also in February, the month with the shortest number of days. So we also have the Doc Brown 88 mile per hour thing, and man, there's been 88s popping all across the board, but Super Bowl Sunday is on the 8th. I've talked before about the great 8th day. And you got to understand, we've talked about the calendars, and time is fluid. It's not a real thing, okay? So, but if you go back and you look at the different calendars and what months are really what, February is actually October, Oct being 8. So the Super Bowl being on 8/8, so there's another 88 symbology. And it's also been in the news recently, and people have been talking about it, about how NASA came out and said, hey, sometime in August, we're going to have 7 seconds of weightlessness. Gravity's going to go away for 7 seconds. And in the script, in the Bible, it talks about the rapture, people floating, right? And we're not going to float. It is what it is. But the whole point is, they said that's going to occur August, and we're going to have 7 seconds. They don't know that. But August, going back to the 8th on our actual calendar that we use today, right, is the 8th month. So there's another 8 again. So they're basically saying this month we're going to have 7 seconds of no gravity. That's probably the 7 from all the kid stuff that's going around saying 6, 7, right? Because, again, on my other videos with the AI, we've been talking about the significance of the Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham, another story in the script, moved his people through the passage to freedom. Abraham did, right? So Abraham, being in the Gulf over there, is part of the story. And also, see, and it's so hard to explain, because all this stuff is stuff I've researched, and it took years and years, and I can't just spill it out in like 30 seconds. But we have a day side and a night side of the Earth, and they talk about how the solar flares come in and they go all the way through the Earth, right? So the day side is the light side, the night side is the dark side. When the people on the daytime are in the dark, they're sleeping, right? And then the sun comes up and everybody wakes up. That's the new day. Somewhere in that book, I can't even tell you where to find it, but Jesus made a comment, is there not 12 hours in a day? So basically, through a 24-hour cycle here, we actually live 2 days. 1 day in the light, 1 day in the dark. And right now, all the stuff that's prepping for the Super Bowl on the light side of the Earth has a corresponding partner on the night. Did I say that right? Here on for the Super Bowl, the day side of the Earth has a bunch of stuff going on around the Super Bowl that corresponds to what's going on the dark side, which would be over there around Iran. Now, if you watch the news, the Abraham Lincoln's been sitting off the coast, and they're moving it now up into the Strait of Ardan. Okay, that's a gate back to the cradle of life. So it's making the move. Okay, so when the Artemis rocket got scrubbed, that's the light side over here. Okay, the Abraham Lincoln shooting that drone down, if you run the numbers and everything and look at the lightning bolt from the F-35, that's also the light. The drone is the dark. It was in the dark. Okay, so the Artemis, even though the Artemis launch did not take place here on the light side, they scrubbed it, right? On the dark side is when that drone took place, and that was actually day number 5, I think, into the flight, where and I mentioned this in another video, that's why I was looking at the 13th, right? Because that's when they're going to be on the far side of the moon, supposedly. And because of the delay, it's now going to be lit. Okay. So from that point on, from the far side of the moon to touchdown, the turtle touching down in the New World, takes about 4 or 5 days. And that event with the drone took place on the 3rd. So if you add the 4-day return to Earth, if that was symbolic of the flight continuing and being on the dark side or the far side of the moon, that lands us on the 7th as well. So in the IPAC GOAT 2 video that people are analyzing, it does show, and this is what's funny, in the same scene, it shows like this red flare, the red sky. Okay, so that is symbolic of the time jump. There's going to be color in the sky, okay? It is what it is. But it also shows the aircraft carrier and the Super Bowl trophy. And to me, if you look at that, I don't know how many people have seen that, but the Super Bowl trophy looks to me like it's crying. Like that day may not even come. The Super Bowl, the red sky, and the sinking aircraft carrier, because people have this so twisted, you know, when they say peace and safety and then sudden destruction falls upon them, it isn't, you know, everybody thinks that this world is just going to jump into war, that they think the sudden destruction is the war, and that's because it's a deep-rooted psychological thing, because that's kind of where we were at one point. Okay, the sudden destruction is when everything changes in the blink of an eye and all this goes away. And that's what I see in the symbology of the aircraft carrier and the crying Super Bowl trophy with the red sky all in the same scene. Because the Jesus guy in the canoe, that's us. Okay, because I don't know if I did that bit with the AI about running the numbers for all the people that are on board and what their numbers, but it is what it is. I've said all along that we are the Jesus character. So that is the rapture right there, going through the waters, so to speak. Waters of time, waters of life, whatever you want to call it, on the canoe, right? To the New World. Same thing with the Abraham Lincoln moving up into the straits there, changing its position right now before the weekend. So I don't know, things are looking really promising. Is this it? I don't know, I've said that a bunch. This looks good, that looks good, but you know, each time I get a little more insight, a little more understanding. I can see the play a little better. So it is what it is. So have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun. Those of you that are getting pounded still with the cold and trying to dig out from all that snow, my prayers and my feelings go to you. I know what it's like to be in that kind of mess, but it should be winding down. So there's always that. So I love everybody. You take care. Bye-bye.